Welcome to Module 3. We are going to look at the next steps on the AFCFTA negotiations. We are going to talk a lot about phase 2 of the negotiations. So in this module, I would expect you to be able to appreciate the agreement, where we have reached in terms of the agreement. I would expect you also to understand what the next steps are. We are going to focus on the protocols that need to be negotiated and agreed upon on phase 2 of the negotiations. In this phase, we are going to focus on investment, intellectual property rights, competition policy, and e-commerce. I would expect you also to be able to assess the opportunities for industrialization that digitalization and e-commerce can offer. So the AFTA, the AFCFTA was launched in July 2019. It was completed in less than 3 years. This is the point we made already in Module 2, and I explained to you that the fact that the negotiations were concluded in such a short period of time bears witness to the interest that African policymakers have on the African continental FTA. However, the fact that the AU and African countries have a desire to push further into a higher level of integration means that this process has not been completed yet. We are far from there. The process is ongoing. In fact, we have completed only phase 1 of the negotiations. There are a number of issues that will remain to be addressed, and these will be addressed in phase 2 of the negotiations, which is ongoing as we speak. In this phase, we are going to talk about investment, competition policy, intellectual property rights, and e-commerce, and we are hoping that soon we will have a protocol in each of these 4 areas. However, phase 2 negotiations are likely to be more complicated than phase 1 for a simple reason. There are several areas where there's a lack of WTO reference points. One such area would be competition policy. In competition policy, there is no WTO agreement that AfCFTA negotiators can fall back on and draw inspiration from. So that means negotiations on competition policy, as well as in the other areas, but perhaps less so in the other areas, would be more complicated than were the negotiations in phase 1. Nevertheless, in all these areas, the negotiations can draw on the regional economic community's experiences and achievements, and we are going to talk about these achievements. We are going to talk about these experiences and how the negotiations can actually draw on what is there already. Let us try to understand the rationale of the second phase of the negotiations. The rationale has to do with the desire, the wish for deeper integration. In this phase, we are talking about what I call WTO plus areas. These are obviously in line with the Abuja Treaty's vision to achieve a deeper level of integration, and it is also consistent with the BIAT goal of substantially increasing intra-Africa trade. The decision to launch a second phase of the negotiations also follows current trends in regional integration. If you look around, most modern preferential trade arrangements are integrating protocols in the areas of investment, competition policy, and IPR into expanded trade agreements. So the trade agreements we see today are no more the classic agreements where the focus was uniquely on trade and therefore on a trade protocol. Okay, these agreements are going beyond, and they are including areas like investment, competition policy, and IPR. These arrangements, we call them deep integration arrangements. They reflect the view that trade liberalization is not enough to boost trade, and that economic activity between partners, and therefore that more is needed. More is needed in terms of uh, protocols other than trade. So even if you want to boost trade, a protocol on investment will also help you achieve that goal. Whereas an agreement on trade alone may not be sufficient to, to boost trade. These protocols in the so-called WTO plus areas, they also facilitate policy convergence, which is critical to achieving higher levels of integration. The evidence suggests that deep agreements increase bilateral trade by as much as 44% compared to conventional trade agreements. And in fact, the research also shows that these deep agreements may not entail the trade diversion that we may see in conventional trade agreements. So let us start with the very first of the four areas that are being negotiated in phase two, and that is investment. The role of foreign investment should not be underestimated. Foreign investment can play a crucial role in Africa's economic development, structural transformation, and regional integration. It can promote several objectives of the AfCFTA agreement. These include paving the way towards a single market, contributing to enhanced flows of capital, and fostering cooperation on investment. There has been a growing interest among policymakers to address Africa's weaknesses in attracting foreign investment to the continent. One important milestone in this regard is the adoption of the Pan-African Investment Code in 2017. That was a significant step towards boosting foreign direct investment to the continent. A future investment protocol can build on the Pan-African Investment Code and other existing regional initiatives, which means, again, that in this area, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There is already a lot that is there, and we can build on that. The investment landscape in Africa is fragmented at different levels. At the national level, you have a whole range of investment codes that have been adopted by individual African countries. So they differ from country to country. At the bilateral level, you have bilateral investment treaties, BITs, concluded between African countries and other countries, whether African or not. Currently, there are about 515 of BITs in force. The chart shows it. You can see that there was a time, the period in the 1990s, especially from 1990 up to the year 2000, you could see a big surge in bilateral investment treaties in Africa. For now, that has subsided a little bit, but as I said, there are currently 515 such treaties in force, and many of them actually are between African countries. At the regional level, you have investment rules and model investment treaties that have been enacted by different regional economic communities. And at the continental level, as we mentioned just now, the Pan-African Investment Code, which was adopted as a model instrument, can serve as a benchmark for the upcoming AFCFTA investment protocol. So let's talk about this Pan-African Investment Code and try to assess how an AFCFTA investment protocol can build on it. On the one hand, the PAIC can address issues of legal uncertainty and fragmentation, since member states that agree on the code should take precedence in the case of conflicting laws. So in other words, member states that have signed up to the Pan-African Investment Code have agreed that the code will rule supreme in case of conflicting laws. The PAIC is in the spirit of new generation investment treaties. It balances investment protection with non-investment related public interests as suggested by UNCTAD, and sustainable development remains at the heart of the Pan-African Investment Code. So all of that are major advantages that a future investment protocol can build on, can actually draw on. On the other hand, however, the PAIC is more of a guiding text than a binding instrument. And it has limited scope, especially insofar as the MFN clause is concerned. The limited scope of the MFN clause in the PAIC limits its value as an investment agreement. The AFCFTA investment protocol presents a unique opportunity to rewrite investment rules in Africa and to design an effective and balanced investment dispute mechanism. We have seen that in the area of trade, there is a dispute settlement mechanism, which was agreed upon as one of the protocols. So we have the protocol on trading goods, the trading services, and the dispute settlement mechanism. We need something similar in the area of investment, because there are a number of disputes that also arise in this particular area. And the existence of a proper and well-functioning dispute mechanism, dispute settlement mechanism, can help address many of these issues. The investment protocol should also feature new generation investment treaty innovations. And here we are talking about substantive obligations and dispute settlement provisions and development-oriented obligations. And last but not least, the investment protocol should be built on 4 pillars, as have been suggested by the ECA. These include investment promotion and facilitation, investment protection, investor obligations, and